First deal, Crystal found it. She's the marketing whiz, so she found it on
Okay.
Facebook Marketplace. I do the acquisitions and the sales, so I got it under contract for 54,000. It's actually like walking distance, like 2 blocks away from our office where we're standing right now. Got under contract for 54 grand. Ended up wholesaling it to our tax guy for 65. So we made 11,000 on our first deal. Our second deal, we made 5,000. Crystal actually did 90% of that one herself because I was busy working my job. And then our third deal was actually a virtual wholesale deal in Boston. So we're in North Carolina, virtually wholesaled a property in Boston where we grew up, sight unseen. We never saw the house. We made 105,000 on our third deal, and yeah, we hit a yeah, it was a grand slam, man, and that was a game changer. That really opened our eyes, like, damn, we can really like quit our jobs.
Hey, welcome to another episode. My name is Julian Castle. I'm your host. Today I got Dedric and Krystal Polite. They're a husband duo couple. They have a real estate investing company, and they're on a TV show called 50/50 Split. So they've been doing real estate for quite a bit, and they're gonna be sharing with us, what are their best tips and strategies today to get started. So thank you so much for coming on. How you guys doing today?
Doing great, Julian. Thanks for having us.
Amazing, amazing. I love it. So I really want to ask this question. How'd you guys meet? Like, what was, how was the start to this? Like,
No, we actually met. It's a funny story. We met at a gas station in Boston. So we both
uh-huh,
were in our late 20s, living in Boston. I went to pump gas one day. She went to
uh-huh,
pump gas. Same gas station. We had never, neither one of us had been to this gas station before. We both actually thought it was a front for like some type of drug operation because they
uh-huh.
never had fuel at this gas station.
Yeah.
I saw her. We kind of locked eyes and struck up a conversation. Ended up exchanging business cards. Then we went on our first date, and our first date was like a business meeting. She
Oh, wow.
literally grilled me. She interviewed me on our first date. It wasn't like a traditional, like, hey, let's just eat ice cream. And what's your favorite color and your favorite, this and that. She was like, hey, what are your goals? What are your plans? What's your credit score? So that's how we met and led into
Wow.
our first date, which led into us getting together and
Right.
building an empire together.
Okay, okay, awesome. So, Crystal, what was your intention when you were like, getting into that conversation? Like, did you have a plan or a vision for your life already? Like, what was that like?
Very much so. So that meeting went exactly how I wanted it to go as a business meeting, right? A
Uh-huh.
lot of people waste time in the superficial stuff and wanting to get to know, like, oh, where have you been? What clubs do you like to go to? And what's your favorite drink? None of that was
Hmm.
important to me. At that point in my life, I was about building. And I
Hmm.
needed to know any relationship I was getting into from that point forward had to be going in a specific direction, right? And even if it
Hmm.
wasn't marriage, it had to be where there's some type of a partnership that could have formed some way, shape, or fashion. For him, I kind of knew that I was going to end up marrying him from
Hmm.
day one, but I just needed to know where his head was. So that's really what that first date was also about.
Awesome, that's amazing. And Dedrick, did you also have some kind of like vision or plan for that, or was this something that Crystal like brought to the table? Brought
Yeah, I
brought
mean, I
together.
was in my late 20s, Julian. I was still living my best life. I wasn't ready to get married by any means when we first met. But I knew when I met her, I was like, there's something special about her. She's not like every other, girl I've ever met. So
Uh-huh.
I knew she was going to be the one once I was ready to settle down, which took, a couple more years. And she actually encouraged me to like, hey, you're not ready for a woman like me. Go get all that Playboy stuff out of your system. I was 28, 29. And reluctantly, I did so. Right, I went away and did my own thing for a couple years, and then she said, "Hey, in the future, we could circle back around, and if the time is better." So I ended up coming back a little too soon, and she was like, "You're not ready. You're still not ready for a woman like me." And I was like, "No, no, I'm ready. I got it out of my system." And then we ended up getting back together, and we've been together ever since.
Amazing. I love that story. That's so incredible. I learned so much from these calls. So that's incredible. So how'd you guys get started in real estate investing? Like, what was your journey into that?
Yeah, real estate, Julian. So 2001, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I see you got your bookshelf back there. So I read the book and I caught the bug. I was like, I need to find out how do I get some of this cash flow that this Kiyosaki guy's talking about. But I didn't have anyone who I knew who was in the business who could teach me or who would teach me, even though I went to college and all that stuff. And 2007, I bought my first house, but I bought it 100% finance. I bought a triplex in Boston, which is a very expensive market. That's almost a $500,000 property. But I read this book called How to Buy Houses with No Money Down and Get Cash Back at Closing. So I'm 25 years old. The closing attorney told me it wasn't possible. The title company, my lender told me it wasn't possible, but I ended up getting a 100% finance loan and got $1,200 back when I bought my first house at 25. So I knew there was something to it, but I went back to
Wow.
working my job. I didn't really go into real estate. So I was working a corporate job. It wasn't until I met Crystal that she was like, "Hey, you keep talking about real estate and want to get into this, but you haven't done anything. You have all these books, you got all these tapes you take, you go to these seminars, but you don't take action." So she started researching wholesaling. She was like, "Look, I already started
Oh,
the
wow.
LLC. Like once she starts researching something, it's over.
Right.
Like we're gonna do it because she goes with motion." So she was like, "I started LLC. I signed us up for this conference. Like we're taking action," and that's what spurred me into it, and it's been off to the races ever since.
Okay, amazing. So Crystal, how did you get started in real estate? Like, when did you start researching wholesaling, and what was that like? Like,
The moment he
what was
was talking about it. So the moment he kept saying, "Hey, this is what I wanted to do," and for Dedric, it was just more like, "Yeah, I always wanted to get in real estate. That's my dreams, and is to really eventually get into real estate." And that was always what it was. And then he would constantly bring up this wholesaling, different methods of getting into real estate, different exit strategies, and then I got tired of him talking about it, so I started doing my own research on it. And I went ahead and just started our company and started signing us up for conferences and webinars and things of that nature. I'm more of a doer, so I don't window shop for nothing. Not education, not clothes, not purses, not cars. If you say you want to do it, we're going to do it. And that's what it was. It was his goal, his dream. And I tell people all the time, I would never marry a man with potential, because that potential may never come to fruition. And then you just stuck talking about, man, he has such great potential. But I will marry a man with goals and a vision. And that's what Dedric had. So I knew he was a leader. So I wasn't afraid to follow him. And when he said, "Hey, this is what I want to do," I took his cue and I ran with it and just started saying, "Hey, listen, this is what if this is really what you're gonna want to do, then we're gonna do it." And I just off to the races at that point.
amazing. So I assume you guys got started with wholesaling. Is that right?
Yes.
And we actually got started with Airbnb.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because
Oh, okay.
when we were dating, this is 2012. Airbnb still pretty new. A buddy of mine who I work with in corporate, he was like, "Hey, every time I go to New York, I pay for my trip through renting out my apartment." I was like, "What are you talking about?" It's like I put it on this site called Airbnb, and it covers my trip to New York City. And she was always over my house, and when we started dating, I had my own house. I was like, and I had gotten laid off too, so I just got fired. I was all depressed. She kind of snapped me out of that depression, and I was like, I figured out a way we can make money. She was like, "How?" I was like, "We can rent out your apartment. You're never there." And I was like, "Oh, well, never mind. Your brother's staying there." And she was like, "Well, he was staying there. Hold on." So she picks up the phone, calls her brother, and she's like, "Hey, you got 2 weeks to move out." And he was like, "No, no, I'm gonna start paying rent," because he wasn't paying rent. He was just crashing on her couch, right? And she was
Uh,
like, "No, you got 2 weeks to move out." So once he got out, it was already furnished. We threw it up on Airbnb, and we started making money on Airbnb. Within like 5 or 6 months, we made like probably 30, $40,000 on Airbnb,
wow.
and that was our first foray into real estate.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. So, okay, I want to get a snapshot. So, what do you guys do right now? Like, what does your overall arching portfolio look like, or just duties?
Yeah, so right now, Julian, we have a multifaceted real estate investment company. So we're investors. We have a marketing acquisitions company that does wholesaling. We also do fix and flips, of course. We have our TV show that's on Hulu. It's on A&E called 50/50 Flip. But it's not your traditional fix and flip show because we're actually buy and hold investors. So when the TV
Mm,
producers found us, they found us through our social media presence and they saw we were fixing up all these houses and flipping them, but they were actually rental properties. So we were buying properties off market through our wholesaling efforts and renovating them to flip quality, and we're actually keeping them as long term rentals. And they thought we were flipping them. So they were like, "Hey, we don't care if you don't flip. We just love you guys, and we want to follow your journey and your story." So that's kind of how the TV show discovered us. But in addition to flipping and wholesaling, we also have Airbnbs, and then we also own a rental portfolio that includes single-family homes, apartment buildings. We own a mobile home park. We own commercial property, and we
Nice.
also own land as well.
Nice, nice. Okay, amazing. We got a lot to talk about.
But
So,
it all
okay,
started. It
so
all started with wholesaling. That
it
was
all
the
started
start.
with wholesaling. So let's get there. So wholesaling, like, what was your journey to get to get into this? Like, what was the first actions that you guys took? You know, the first steps.
We got a
To get
mentor.
into wholesaling,
Yeah.
no, I think our first actions were we were going to like a lot of local seminars. Went to a couple of local seminars, and then immediately I told him we needed to hire a mentor. And he was like, "Well,
I didn't
really?"
want to at first because I was like, I'm not trying to spend 5, 10, 20 grand. I was being cheap. I didn't
Yep.
see the value in mentorship back then.
Yeah.
And I told him in order to shorten our learning curve, we need to hire someone who's already done what we're trying to do and have them just teach us what that is. And that's what we ended up doing. We ended up hiring a mentor immediately. The mentor we hired though was more
Fix and flip.
more fix and flip than anything. So when we went met with her and she was like, "Hey, you guys need to start with something called wholesaling." She wasn't an expert in wholesaling, but she did direct us to a conference where that's what they really do is teach you wholesaling. So
Yeah.
she was like, "Hey, go to this conference." We was like, "Okay, okay, great."
This is
And
2016, 2017.
yeah, and we didn't sign up for it right away. And she emailed us a couple of times like, "Hey, just checking, did you guys sign up for this conference? I know they have one coming up. Did you sign up for it? You definitely don't want to miss this." So Dedric was like, "Oh," and it was in St. Louis.
We had to travel halfway across the country. But I'm
And
glad she pushed us. And she was like, no, you really, it was a marketing boot camp, is what it
yeah,
was. And you know, Julian, being in wholesaling, wholesaling is a marketing business. If
It's
you
a
don't have
marketing
marketing,
business.
you don't have a business. So we went out to this conference
Yeah.
and we learned all the different marketing methods to find off market deals. And then at the end of the conference, of course, they offered a mastermind. And they're like, hey, if you guys really want to do this, join our mastermind. You have to be a full-time real estate investor. Everybody in here is making over 7 figures. The only reason they let us in is because we dropped 16 grand to join the mastermind.
right.
And it was $16,000 we didn't have, but we put it on a business credit card. So I think the cheat code, Julian, for your audience is that first of all, you need to hire a mentor. And then second of all, you got to invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. And business credit was which allowed us to invest in our education, which got us around like-minded people who were doing the business at a high level. And that's where we really learned the tricks of the trade to level up.
Yeah, that mastermind, which I like to let people know, everyone in that mastermind was full time investors. Dedric and I were the only ones who had still had 9 to 5 jobs. So it put us on a different playing field
So we
with
were like
others.
we were like the lowest in the room.
Lowest,
We weren't,
lowest,
get into
lowest.
the room where you're the dumbest in the room. So we went. We used to travel to St. Louis every quarter, and everybody's talking about, yeah, I closed 50 deals this quarter. I bought about $30 million in real estate. I brought in 2 million in assignment fees, and we're
Yeah,
like, we're trying to close our
right.
first
Damn.
deal, right? So we got tired of going back out there every 3 months and not having results. So it forced us to actually get into action mode and start getting results.
But it also helped us because everyone poured into us. They know we deserve to be there because no one's going to drop 16 grand to sit and look in people's face.
We invested.
We invested in ourselves, so it made it that much easier for them to invest in us and believe in us. So anything that we needed, any questions that we ever had, anything that we were struggling with, we could go to this group, this mastermind, and everyone was willing to help us.
That's amazing. Okay, so talk about your first deals with us. Like how'd you get the lead? Who closed it, and who sold it?
Yeah, our first deal, Krystal found it. She's the marketing whiz. So she found it on
Okay.
Facebook Marketplace. I do the acquisitions and the sales. So I got it under contract for 54,000. It's actually like walking distance, like 2 blocks away from our office where we're standing right now. Got under contract for 54 grand, ended up wholesaling it to our tax guy for 65. So we made 11,000 on our first deal. Our second deal, we made 5,000. Crystal actually did 90% of that one herself because I was busy working my job. And then our
Uh-huh.
third deal was actually a virtual wholesale deal in Boston. So we're in North Carolina, virtually wholesaled
Uh-huh.
a property in Boston where we grew up, sight unseen. We never saw the house. We made 105,000 on our third deal, and
Ooh,
yeah,
boy.
we hit a yeah, it was a grand slam, man, and that was a game changer. That really opened our eyes. Like, damn, we can really like quit our jobs with this business. So we immediately took that cash from those first three deals, and we immediately started buying apartment buildings. So we went from like 3 units to like 18 units within 2 months, and then we were off to the races from there.
Okay, amazing, amazing. So, okay, you mentioned you got it from a Facebook marketplace. So,
No, the
did
first
you
deal was Facebook Marketplace. The second one
We're
was
driving for dollars and
Driving
direct
for
mail.
Dollars and direct
driving
mail,
for
and then the
dollars?
third one was also direct mail.
Direct mail. Okay, amazing. Wow, interesting. Okay, super cool. All right. So, how do you recommend people get started wholesaling now?
If you're getting started on what the marketing side,
Yeah, the
would
marketing
you
side,
say
lead generation.
lead
Yeah.
generation? On the lead generation side, it really is going to depend on what your budget is like, right? And do you
Hmm.
have more money or more time? So us getting started out, we had more time. So we
Hmm.
handle all of our lead gen. Our marketing was cold calling. And so it's a little different. If I would say now, depending on what your money look like, if your money ain't funny, right, then I
Hmm.
would hire an
Cold
acquisitions team,
calls.
which is cold callers. I would hire cold callers to call for me. Then I would also do pay per lead. Right, this is
Hmm.
one of the newest forms of lead gen is pay per lead, depending on what your budget is like. My favorite still though is direct mail.
Hmm.
I love direct mail because when people call you back, you know that that's a hot lead, right? So it's either,
Yeah.
hey, you can stop sending to me, or yes, I do have a house for sale. Can we talk? That's my favorite, but I would say starting today, it would definitely be if you're, and a lot of people starting wholesaling is because they don't have the capital, right?
Hmm.
So if you do, I would say cold calling, pay per lead, anything else.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, we have a free training that we offer, Julian, where if someone's looking for a case study, I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes. They can just
Hmm.
check out our free training where we literally give step by step how to get started. Another thing we created was we have a 4 week live wholesale accelerator where we literally teach from the how to set up your LLC to all about marketing to acquisitions to dispositions. We break down everything over 4 weeks. So that's how I would get started.
Okay, amazing, amazing. I love it. All right, cool. So, all right. So, walk us now into your next step in your journey. So, you bought this apartment building. Tell me, how'd you get into, this apartment building? Like, how'd you know that the numbers work? Was it a buy and hold? Was it a value add and hold? Like, what kind of deal was this? And, how was it? Like, how did it turn out?
Yeah, so we closed those first deals and we started buying and holding. And then what we would do is wholesaling is the foundation, right? I always tell people
Mm-hmm.
wholesaling is the foundation. And what we do is we cherry pick the best deals. We do marketing, cherry pick the best deals, and keep those in our portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wholesale everything else. So cherry pick the best, wholesale the rest. And the
Yes.
wholesaling is your active income. So, making 10, 20, 30, six figures a month is possible through wholesaling. And then take that cash and buy and hold rental properties, right? And just rinse and repeat that process. So we've done that for a number of years since 2017, 2018. But then it comes a point where you run out of cash, right? You buying, 4, 5, 8 units per month, you can quickly run out of cash. So how do you keep buying properties? So our mentor, we hired a mentor who's an expert in creative financing. So creative
Mm-hmm.
financing, for those who don't know, is how to buy properties with little to no money. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So we learned how to buy properties with 0% down, 0% interest, how to pay retail and make monthly payments and allow the tenants to pay your mortgage and still acquire property without going through banks. And once we
Mm-hmm.
learned seller financing and even subject to, it was a game changer. Our portfolio exploded once we mastered creative financing.
Okay, amazing. So, the way it sounds like is you continue to wholesale, right? And then now that
Always.
you had more ways of doing, buying, like purchasing, then you were buying more properties with less of your money, seller finance and
Totally.
subject to. So that's how you continue to scale, but you can continually to make money with the wholesaling, right?
Yeah, because that's a challenge. I mean, wholesaling is great, and even our mentor told us, like, look, you can make a lot of money wholesaling and flipping houses. You can get rich. We've done it. Multiple of our buddies in the industry have done it. But the way you build true wealth is by putting something on your board. Put something on your monopoly board, right? Four red houses, four green houses, one
Right.
red hotel.
Well, hotel.
So once we figured that out, like, man, we need to keep some of these properties. I mean, we knew that from the
Yeah.
beginning. That's the only reason we even started wholesaling. But the challenge is so many people, they wholesale, wholesale, wholesale. They never keep anything, right?
Yeah.
So, and they don't build true wealth, and they get hit with huge tax bills. So our thing is we're investors. We're not wholesalers. We love wholesaling, but we're not wholesalers. Investors know how to use multiple exit strategies, and they'll use the exit strategy depending on the situation and the deal that's in front of them.
Okay, amazing. Could you give us a quick masterclass on this seller finance and subject to? How's that work?
Sure.
The
So
creative
seller
finance.
finance, I'll give you an example, Julian. So we have a
Yeah.
gentleman who's 80 something years old. He owned 50 unit portfolio. We sent him a postcard. He called us back like, yeah, I got a property I want to sell. We ended up buying his 4 unit apartment building for $45,000. This is back in 2018. Now I know it
Mm,
sounds crazy to buy 4 units for
yeah.
25,000 for 45,000, but it was like a tear down. Like it needed a gut rehab. It needed everything. That's why we got it so cheap. And we were
Yeah.
gonna renovate it and do the BRRRR strategy, renovate it and rent it out and refinance. But
Yeah.
us as newbies, we're like, oh, the rehab's probably gonna be about 75 grand before we bought it. Once we closed on it, we got contractors to give us estimates. It was like 150, 125. So
Wow.
we panicked and we were like, man, we just bought like a tear down, like we're in deep trouble. But luckily we had a mentor. So we hit up our
Yeah.
mentor, like, hey, we bought this property. It needs way more work than we thought it would need. And he was like, why don't you just sell it? I was like, what do you mean? We're going to do the BRRRR strategy. He was like, why don't you just list it on the MLS as is? And I hadn't even thought of that. And I'm like losing sleep over this. I hadn't even think. So I put it on the MLS as is for 60 grand and we ended up selling it for 55. And remember, we bought it for 45. So we got our money
Yeah.
back. We made a little bit of money and now I'm not stressing. Right. And then
Yeah.
from there, that same seller who sold us that property, he had another 4 unit. And we were like, hey, how much do you want for this one? He was like, I need 160,000. So of course, when you're wholesaling and you're a cash buyer, you're not going to offer
Yeah.
him 160. We're going to offer him like 120 was our cash offer. And he said,
Mm,
absolutely not. I'm not taking a penny less than 160. But by this point, we had learned creative financing. So I
yeah.
offered the guy 160. I said, okay, Mr. Franklin, I'll give you 160, but here's how I need to structure the deal. I'm going to give you a cash down payment of 5,000 when we close. So I'm going to owe you 155,000. Now, mind you, there's no loan. The property's owned free and clear. So I was like, I'll owe
Mm,
you 155. We'll do a promissory note and a deed of trust, and then I'll pay you a mortgage payment every month of $750 for the next 7 years. He said, let's do it. And remember, this is 0% interest.
wow.
Zero
Yeah.
percent interest. So when we bought the property, now it needed a lot of work. It
Yeah.
needed a lot of work, but when we bought it, it was already bringing in about 2,000 a month in rent. So that $2,000 a month in rent was paying the 750 mortgage, plus we were cash flowing, 700, 800 bucks a month.
Yeah.
And we actually documented this property in our TV show, season 1 of 50/50 Flip, the season finale episode. We actually documented the process of how we gutted this property. We paid 160 for it. We put about 160,000 into rehab, refinanced it. When we refinanced it, the appraised value was 480. So we have about 160,000 in
Wow.
equity. And right now, to this day, after refinancing the property, this property cash flow is probably 3, 4 grand a month profit.
Wow. 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 Oh my God, that's a home run. That's a home run. Krystal, do you know subject to? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so subject to is basically when someone's taking over a mortgage payment, subject to
Uh-huh.
the existing mortgage. And it's definitely a little bit more advanced strategy. So we always tell people that's not one that you want to start with, especially if you have no experience in real estate. And for us, we learned it through a mentor of ours. So we know it's, you're marketing to a specific type of individual. And a lot of people don't know what that profile looks like, right? But I tell people a lot of it is the neighborhoods that you currently live in. And what you're basically doing is going in, getting a property under contract. These are typically people who may have to move. They have two mortgages,
Relocation.
relocate. They live in another house. Like I think our very first one was this was their first house. They moved into another one. They had two mortgages, and didn't want to be landlords anymore. And so we presented them with subject to. took over the mortgage payment for that one, and I think it might have been the mortgage payment was
$500 a
yeah,
month.
like $500 a month.
Rented it for $950.
Yeah, starting rent was like $950 when we first took it over. And you're basically taking it over. For us, we always put the property into a trust. And to, as not some of the things that we do as to not trigger anything with the bank, the trust is typically like the street name of the property. So it really just looks like, and we'll do either the street name and then the owner's last name, the original owner's last name, things that it doesn't trigger anything with the bank to be like, hey, is this property changed hands? Because a lot of people who are familiar with it know that a lot of these loans have a due on sales clause. So, like I said, it's definitely a more advanced strategy that we tell people don't start with. But if you are interested in it, you definitely want to get educated and mentored around how to really do this effectively. So one of the first things that our mentor told us so many years ago was, if it ever comes down to paying your mortgage and this individual seller's mortgage, guess what? You better pay this person's mortgage, because there's so many different
laws
and regulations that could really come down on all investors, not just you, when something like this happens.
If it's done improperly.
Exactly.
Okay, I got you. That's super. That's interesting. Okay, amazing. So thank you guys. Tell us a little bit about, you went into multifamily, you went into commercial. You know, you're doing all of these. Like, can you tell us why you're not just sticking to single family? Like, why are these other, avenues, or like also so attractive, and you're actually going for them?
Yeah, so through our marketing, Julian, and you wholesale, different leads come in. So not just single family leads are coming in. We're getting single family leads. We're getting land leads of people who own land they want to sell. We're getting leads for apartments and commercial. So we're not just going to limit ourselves to single family houses. If we can buy an asset at a wholesale price or get incredible terms on it, we're going to take it down, right? Because we're out to build wealth. Yeah. So we're not just going to say, oh, we're going to just stick with single family homes. So all type of opportunities have been coming across our desk, and they continue to, especially with our television show. We have people who see the show and who just call us and say, hey, I saw your TV show. I see you guys buy houses. I live in California, but I want to sell you my house. So we're also wholesale and flip nationwide as well.
But awesome. I think the most important thing is to know that we're investors first, right? And anyone who's getting into real estate should be an investor, or you're trading in one job for another. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is you will go, the last thing I wanted to do is go from working 50 to 60 hours a week for someone to working 80 to 100 hours a week for myself. So the goal is to not go from one job to another job. So anyone getting into real estate, you should really be getting into it for the freedom. And the freedom is not just the financial freedom, it's the freedom of time. That is true freedom. And a lot of people don't understand that. To be able to own your own time and do as you want, go where you want, that is true freedom. So for us, freedom was always owning real estate. And it didn't matter what the real estate was. It could be a commercial building. It could be a car wash.
We got somebody trying to sell us a gas station right now. We'll probably buy it.
If it's at a good enough deal, we will take it down, because at the end of the day, someone's always looking for a place to live. Someone's always looking for land. And we always tell people, buy land, because they ain't making any more of it, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, so that's amazing. So I think the way you guys are doing things is you guys are sending mailers out. That's how you're getting all these leads, plus your TV shows. No, or is it cold calling? Like,
yeah, it's there's no silver bullet to marketing.
Belt.
Text messaging, cold calling, direct mail, pay per lead, pay per click. I mean, Facebook. It's so many different marketing methods that we deploy. So there's, like I said, there's no one silver bullet.
Okay, amazing. All right, so that's really interesting. And how did you get all this knowledge? Like, I mean, how do you handle all of these incoming leads? Because I know, for example, single family has a certain way of being evaluated. I know mobile home parks have a single way of evaluating. I know, apartment buildings have this a different way, but everything has its own way of evaluation. So, how do you guys deal with all these, properties that you have to come to? Do you how do you underwrite them correctly?
Yeah, so I'm the numbers guy. I'm super analytical. So residential real estate, of course, is determined by the comps. So as long as you know how to run comps and figure out the cash offer, you're good there. And then once you know creative, you're even more dangerous. On the commercial side, it's determined by the net operating income. So again, it's understanding formulas. And then in addition, I have mentors and I have colleagues. So if I'm evaluating a mobile home park or a commercial building,
Yeah.
we're in so many masterminds and groups. I can call someone who owns 1,000 units or 1 million square foot of commercial space and say, "Hey, I evaluated this deal. This is my spreadsheet. Can you look at it and let me know if I'm on track or if I'm off?" So having a network, is very important as well.
And for anyone who
Okay.
don't have that network where you're at and you're not, you can't really get into these masterminds, you can always look to realtors, right? You should always have a realtor on your team. You should always know, and everybody got a realtor in their family, right?
About
Just
2 million realtors out there,
right, just make sure they're active and not someone who did it
Yeah.
40 years ago.
or who
But
did it in the last 2 years because they heard it's a lot of money, but they're
exactly,
not
not
doing any
someone who's
deals.
new. Find someone in your
Investor friendly
area who's
realtor.
investor friendly and who's doing it at a high level. And
Yeah.
literally team up with them so that they can also help you with these deals and
Those
underwriting them and the
evaluations.
valuations.
Okay, awesome. All right. So I want to talk a little bit more about your roles in the business. So, what Dedric do you have as a role, and then Krystal, what do you have as a role in the business?
Yeah, so in a wholesaling company, you have admin, you have marketing, you have sales, and then you have what's the fourth one?
Acquisition,
Operations.
operation.
Operations. So Crystal manages our admin team, so she handles a lot of that. She also handles the marketing, so she oversees all lead generation. I manage the sales and acquisitions of acquiring the properties, and I also manage the financing and funding for them. And then we kind of collaborate on the operations as well. But we actually, that mastermind we joined, they made us read a book called Traction, right? And Traction has this
Yeah.
whole process of accountability. So literally, we have an
Yeah.
accountability chart. We have all the different areas in wholesaling, and we sat down and we divvied up the roles and responsibilities. So I'm not stepping on her toes. She's not stepping on my toes, and our team all knows their roles as well. So we actually have it's a free download we can give to your listeners. I'll send it to you so you can put it in the show notes where everyone can get that accountability chart to kind of see where they land in their organization.
That's amazing. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, we'll put in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Super cool. Now, what I wanted to ask you what was how do you how do you separate your roles? Like you have a home, like you have family, right? You have your personal life and you have the business life. How do you guys do that? Like how do you guys make
There
it
is
all
no
happen?
separation.
Don't.
Just like there is no such thing as work-life balance.
Okay.
You
No, it's,
don't.
it's not like all 100% one way and zero another.
Yeah.
No, but it's, yeah.
We work hard and then we play harder, right? So we are also a mother and a father to two
Mhm.
young boys. So at the end of the day, because we work in the same business, the same industry, the same company, we work together all day, every day. So some of the ways that we can give each other a break is Dedrick works from the office. I work from home, right?
That's
So
another separation there. I'm at the office register. She works from the home office.
right. So we're
Nice,
on
nice.
conference calls. We're on conference calls from always two totally different locations. And it's not that I don't come into the office at times.
Uh-huh.
If we're in the middle of filming in the middle of filming for our TV show, then I'll work from the office because I have to start here anyway.
Yeah.
But between that and then knowing when to say, hey, okay, we need a break, we need a vacation, our kids, they sacrifice a lot as well. So we make
Mm.
sure that we play even harder. We enjoy our life. We enjoy the freedom that real estate has afforded us.
Weekends are off limits, so
Yeah,
weekends is all
right.
family
So
time.
Monday through Friday is when people have us.
Mhm.
Friday through Sunday, you will not reach us.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. That's cool. So you guys create separation so you're at different places and then you have, your schedule and then you have your weekends, which is just
Yeah,
awesome.
and
Yes.
as opposed to Julian, I know most people married or couples, you work in a 9 to 5 job, the husband and wife never see each other. Or they see each
Yeah.
other in passing during the week because they're so busy with their job, then they gotta commute, then they gotta get the kids squared away. You might see each other for an hour a day if you're lucky and on weekends. I didn't want
Yeah.
my wife reporting to a job or reporting and working for someone else. I wanted us to build something together.
That's amazing. So Okay, yeah, that's incredible. I think you know, there's always the cheerleader wife, and then there's the one in the trenches, and so
Yeah.
Right.
I
My
think
baby's in the trenches.
No.
She is
so
in
yeah,
there.
that's awesome. Cool. And so I know you guys have like, I mean, some kind of way that you guys, are educating your kids. You know, what's the way that you guys are leading this family? You know, like what path are you guys leading the family to?
Sure. I mean, our kids have grown up in the business. So literally, like our first wholesale deal, our oldest who's 11, he's like 4, and he made a video we put on Facebook talking about our first deal. Like when we
Mm-hmm.
drive around town and so they see a "We Buy Houses" sign, they be like, "Daddy, is that your sign? Oh, that's not your sign. Well, why do they have this sign up in our town?" So they already know
Uh-huh.
of like what
Yeah.
they think like investors. Like one of Crystal's main reasons for getting into the business is being able to give each one of them a property when they graduate college. Her goal is to have 2 properties paid off by the time they graduate high school, actually, so that we can gift that property to them and they would have a choice. They can either live off the cash flow and not have to go get a job and follow a traditional route if they didn't want to, or they could sell
Mm-hmm.
the property. But if they sold the property, they had to start a business. So they had to take those proceeds and start a business. So again,
Mm,
we're teaching
nice.
them entrepreneurship. Now they don't have to become entrepreneurs, but we're exposing them to entrepreneurship so that
Yeah.
if they and actually I want them to go work for someone else to get understand what it feels like to have a job and work their way up. We're not going to give them anything. We're trying to teach them the
Mm-hmm.
principles so they can earn and build that generational wealth.
And the reason why our kids are being raised in the business is because it's very important to us for them to see the sacrifices that mommy and daddy makes. It is extremely important for them to see the struggles that we go through. It is extremely important for them to see the long nights that we endure. It's extremely important for them to see our work ethic. Because at the end of the day, when we are no longer here and they are to inherit what we have done and the legacy that we built, they are going to appreciate that. They're going to understand
What it
what
took.
we did and what it took for us to build what we have built. And it won't be sold before our bodies are cold, right? That is also extremely important. One of the things my sons know is you make a living by what you get, you make a life by what you give. So it's extremely important for us to teach them philanthropy and always
Yeah.
giving back and always doing for
Hmm.
others, because that is a huge part of Dedric and I, our ministry, our teaching, our focus, and it's ingrained even in our television show. People watch it and they see that we're not your typical investors. We are nowhere near your typical investors. We do more for our community. Even our flips are geared towards the starter home, the starter price point, giving someone a forever home in a starter price point range. Everything we do is to help someone else. And I always tell people it's not about how many doors Dedric and I own. It's about how many doors we can open for another family, another individual, another man or woman to walk through to be able to help change the trajectory of their family tree. And that's why we say it's always about lifting as we rise.
Mm, I love that. I love that. Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so let's that's incredible. And let's talk a little bit about something that's similar on that topic, which is, you know, as a business, you guys have, you know, people that work for you, right? And you have values and you have, you know, all of these things. So what's kind of your values or your culture? Like, how are you guys building that business so that it's a long lasting business?
Yeah, totally, Julian. So we've worked jobs. I know I worked jobs that I hated, right? And nothing wrong with
Mm-hmm.
this. If you love, there's some people who love their job, but
Yep.
I never liked working with someone else. And I was a bad employee too. I'm much better being my own boss. But it's all about results. So results is first, but also like Crystal said, is giving more than you get, right? With our clients, our one of our core values is give more than you get, and of course that's gonna come back to you. So those are some of the core values we live by. Also, our motto as a company is it costs nothing to be polite. So our last name is
Mm-hmm.
Polite, and our motto is be polite. It costs you nothing to be polite.
And
Yeah.
another thing that we always press upon people is you can do good while doing well. So people see us and they say, "Oh
Mm.
my God, you guys got a show. Y'all are doing so well. Y'all are doing this. Your sons are have their own business. But they also see even more than that what we do for others. And that starts within our own company, right? Everyone who's connected with us, we want to own real estate. Even now, I'm doing marketing to help find a house for my hairstylist. She said, listen, that was on her goal for this year, and just said it in general conversation, like, yeah, me and my husband's like, we're thinking about, this is the year we're going to buy a house. Her first home. So I said, you know what? I said, send me over your list, your wants, your needs, your wishes, your wish list for a home.
And my baby isn't even a realtor.
And we're going to look for you a house. But she did the same thing when she wanted to start her, go on her own into hair and makeup, and wanted to find a storefront. And she told me, and I said, okay, find the storefront, and then I'm going to teach you creative financing on how to take it down. And she was like, what? So she was literally taking notes on her phone on the notes app
while doing
my makeup and hair, and was taking detailed notes. So when she found these properties, she would meet with owners, go word for word, line by line, everything that I said. And she was able to lock up a condo, a hair salon, in a condo building that she owns in Greensboro, through creative financing. And she don't even own her own home. She lives in an apartment, has never had any real estate experience, but she literally followed everything that I said and bought a hair salon. So that's what we're about, is anyone connected to us, whether you are connected to us or not, but definitely anyone who's within our company, within our reach, we always want to make sure that they are also taken care of. Okay. Lift as you rise.
Amazing. What are some other ways you guys have made a difference?
God, I would say any and everything that we do, we try to make a difference, right? Even from, if you look at our television show, every property that we are flipping, we're not doing them in just these beautiful neighborhoods.
They're not $1 million flips. These are in starter price points. So we literally try, our thing is called affordable luxury. So we provide people with luxury finishes and quality homes at an affordable price point, $250,000. You can't really find that many places in America anymore. So like Krystal said, we were doing this before the cameras started following us for the TV show, but now the cameras are just documenting what we've been already doing.
Yeah, so when we go in and we do this real estate, we are changing people's lives because we're coming into the neighborhoods who need that increase in their home values.
Yeah, whereas depressed neighborhoods.
Most people are like, oh my God, you're doing a flip over there. Oh my God. And we come in and now we set the new comp because we have a house that's been sold for $250,000, $260,000, whereas most homeowners thought their house was worth maybe $110,000, $120,000. And when we go back to that same neighborhood 2 weeks later, you notice it's what we call that the trickle down effect. All the houses on the street are now, they done painted the exterior of it. They done added landscaping. They've done all of these improvements to their home, which is now increasing their home values. And they come up to us. If we're filming there, they DM us online, they find us, they email us, and they send us these long messages thanking us about how, coming into the neighborhood, beautifying the neighborhood, and really putting that value back into where most people think it's forgotten. And we do this strategically because we grew up in these neighborhoods. Right. So
we grew up in Section 8 housing.
I show people the houses that we grew up in, and they wonder why on our TV show, our flips are done, our rentals are done at flip quality. Why? Because we both grew up in houses that were horrible. And you look back on it and be like, oh my God, I can't believe people lived in that house. And I show my kids the same houses that I grew up in. And they were like, did it look like that when you lived there? Yes. And it probably got the same doorknob on it too. And this was in the 80s. But I tell him this is why we believe in giving people a nice place to live, regardless of how much you make, regardless of your circumstances. Mm-hmm. We believe in giving people a nice place to live because we know the effect that it can have on a family, a young child, a mother, a single mother, a couple, being able to come home and find that peace and solace in a beautiful home and a beautiful place to live, that they don't ever have to leave, but it does something to you psychologically. So everything we do in life, we try to make sure we do it with excellence, and we put God first in everything.
Okay. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. Everything's so cool. All right. So I think as a business owner, hiring is one of the most important things because you can't do everything in the business. So like, what do you think is like, can you take us to your hiring process? Like if you have, like, what does that look like? What do you guys look for? Like, how do you guys screen, for?
For what, is it a specific position or just in general?
In general,
Well, in general now, depending on the position, we will meet them. They don't typically meet us first because if they Google us, then they'll know ahead of time, like, oh my God, that's them from the show. So now we don't typically do our own hiring if it's for administrative roles, something that we need, a general role. If it's something for like a videographer or things of that nature, it's typically referrals that come to us, someone that
Personality test.
someone that we know, and then they still have to go through a personality test with us just to see
What their personality type
trait
is, what the strengths are, is what we look for. What are someone's strengths, and how can they fit into our team? But we're always looking for A players, and we are hiring nationwide for A players. So if someone's an A player and you feel like you can help our organization, feel free to reach out.
Okay, amazing. All right. So, okay, so you have someone else do your hiring, right? And then you do the personality, but I mean, there has to be like some fit in the sense of like, can they do the job? Like, are they excellent? And so you put them through a test, or like what happens there? When
Yeah, so your your resume has to speak for itself also, right? Your experience level, your background. And that's why we go through a third party who's really doing the vetting process for us, because we really don't have the time. So once you get to us, we should already know what your experience level is and that you should know how to do it. Now, if you're coming to us for under the guise of being a contractor of ours. Now, if you're being if you're looking to get hired from us from a contractor, a design standpoint, we have to see your work firsthand. So Dedric and I have to go to a job site. Don't send pictures. Don't send video. People lie. Pictures lie. Video lie. Ask us how we know. We physically have to go to a job site and see the quality of your work or your team's work. For us to be able to say, okay, this is someone we want to put through the test. And then after that, we'll give you a small job to do for us in order for us to truly see your quality. So a lot of people can do the work, but their quality when it comes to construction is different for what Dedric and I level of quality is. Right. So they can put some floors down and then we look at it and be like, oh, okay, yeah, your corner, like this is uneven here, but that's just us. So like I said, when it comes to administrative and stuff, by the time they come to us, we pretty much know that they have to be qualified because we have a third party that we're paying a lot of money to do the hiring for us. Other than that, if it's a major level, then we will ourselves have to vet them once they get to us.
Okay, amazing. All right. So let's start talking about this topic, which is social media. How did you guys get started in social media? And what was that like? What was the intention behind it? What has it benefited you now? Doing it. And just
Social media, Julian. I mean, it's everything's on social media. If you don't have a brand, actually, I remember this was 2008. A friend of mine was like, "Hey, you need to do a photo shoot." I was like, what are you talking about? I work a job. She was like, you need to get some new headshots. You need to do a photo shoot. I was like, okay. She showed me her portfolio. She had just got a professional photo shoot. And she was like, you need to do something like this. And I was like, all right, well, how much does it cost? And at the time, it was like $400 this is in 2008 to get professional headshots. And I'm like, $400? What are you talking about? Reluctantly, I paid this guy who was one of the top photographers in Boston, like to the celebrities and the athletes, $400. I did a professional photo shoot. Actually, I think that was the headshot that got her.
That's
when
what
she
got
saw
me.
that headshot, she was like, damn, who's this dude?
Ooh,
Is this a
jackpot.
model? But no, I did this, Julian, and my brand went crazy. Like even at my job, people started looking at me differently because I had these professional headshots. And that was the first thing I was like, man, your brand, your image is important, right? Fast forward to once we got into real estate, in that mastermind, I circle back to that. The leader of the mastermind was like, hey, we were trying to raise money. We were like, hey, how do we get funding and private money so we can buy more properties, fix more properties, and build our portfolio? And he was like, hey, you need to go on social media and document your process. And we were like, what do you mean? He was like, in order to attract people with money who want to invest in you, you got to show them that you're actually doing the business,
Yep.
right? Everybody say they're in real estate, but really show when you do a property walkthrough. He was like, FaceTime while you're doing property, like meeting with contractors, meeting with sellers, like start documenting it. And Crystal, she's private, so she was like, all right, we're gonna do it, but Dedric, you're gonna do it. So she's elbowing me. So this is what I
Yeah.
started doing. Like you can literally go back on my Instagram and go on our Facebook from 2017. We literally started documenting everything we were doing, not just the successes, but also the failures, also the challenges, also the times where we stumbled and made mistakes. And that's how we built our following over the years was all through social media. And that's how we got found by the TV show was they found us through our social media presence. So social media is huge. You got to build a brand. You got to show what you do on social media. And the best thing is it's free. It's free advertising. It's free marketing.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you anything but time.
And you got to be authentic at the end of the day because people can see through bull. So you definitely want to be authentic, be
Be
your
yourself.
authentic
Yeah.
self, and don't do it for the gram like most people do. Living your truth. Be who you are, and then people will see that and gravitate towards you. They'll see themselves in you.
Yeah, even if you're just starting out, you may be like, wait, what are people interested in me? I haven't closed a deal. I'm just started out. Guess what? There's 99% of people out there watching are just starting, are scared. They have fear. So if you show yourself going through that phase of figuring it out, you will attract a lot of people who are in that same stage.
Okay, I mean that's true. And so tell us, like, what does that look like in your life? Like, when you got started, like, what was your goals? Like your action steps? Were you like, okay, I'm gonna sit and write out the script, or maybe you did it like off the cuff, or like what was your timeline? Your on or your schedule, to put all these content pieces together. That's good.
Yeah, literally, like I said, when I'd have a walkthrough appointment to
Yeah.
go meet with a seller, I'm not only taking pictures of the property, but I'm literally documenting the whole process, right? It wasn't like a scripted, like, let me say this, let me do that. It was literally just reality documentary style, just showing kind of like how these streamers do now when they're just playing
Yeah.
video games and people just watching them, like, why are they looking at them playing video games? I was just doing that as
Yeah.
I'm doing the business, right? And again, people started seeing like, man, they're taking this seriously. They're actually doing the business. Oh, they closed their first deal. Oh, they closed their second deal. Oh, they just bought another rental property. So over months and months of doing this, we had people start reaching out like, hey, I see you're actually serious about this. Can you tell me what you got going on? Are you looking for some money to invest in some more projects? So it didn't happen overnight, but it took time. But it wasn't super scripted. I mean, we started our YouTube channel in 2020, and that's when we hired a videographer to actually film videos, like formal videos but it was still reality and documentary style.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. So it was just reality documentary style. Okay, that's awesome. And tell us about this show. So like you got like approached by this show. You're like what was it? What is it like to get approached by a show? Like what does the deal look like? How do you guys make money? Like how much time do you put into it? Like what?
That's a lot. That was like five different questions there, Julian.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
So how do we get approaches? They were DMing us, but a lot of agencies were DMing us and networks in regards to doing a show. And at the time, we would ignore the messages. Our kids were small. I wasn't interested in it at all.
And then there was a lot of spam out there too. So you're like,
And
is this real?
so we really wasn't focused on a TV show to start off. And then after some years, A&E had kept messaging us in our Instagram, in our DM. And our secretary at the time, they called, found our 800 number, called it, got her to promise that she would give us the message to call them back. I called back. They asked if we can hop on a Zoom. We hopped on a Zoom. They told us what was going on in regards to they were relaunching their real estate division. They were looking for 3 shows, and they would love for us to be one of the candidates that interview. So we was like, we don't really want to do a TV show, but we was like, hey, let's just see how far we'll go. So we didn't have any plans on actually doing
It
one.
wasn't in our dreams. We didn't like set out to do it.
We was like, let's just see how far we can go, because it'll be cool to be like, yo, we got all the way to the last round, and then this is during COVID, and then I think maybe like 6 months, 7 months later, they approached us and was like, hey, we want to, and each Zoom call, we had 1 million Zoom calls, and more people ended up on these Zoom calls. And then the final one was them offering us one of the slots for the TV show. And then we were kind of like, oh.
Wow.
Right. We were like, oh, we didn't think we were actually going to pick us.
Yeah, we thought we were just in this for play. We were just trying to see how far we were going to go. So then I was like, well, we kind of have to do a TV show now. Like, we didn't want them to have wasted all this time and energy in us. And we was like, oh, I'm sorry, y'all. We were just playing. We ain't really have we didn't really plan on doing this. So that's really how the show came about. We went, which is unheard of in television, we went straight to series. So typically they do a test fit. They do a proof of concept. So they'll bring someone down, videotape you actually doing what you say you're doing. Then they'll create a sizzle reel,
which is like 2 minutes. And then like a pilot, which is like a 20-minute mini episode. That's what they typically do before they even like start filming your season.
Yeah, and typically that takes 1 to 2 years. Well, for us, we went straight to series. So after we agreed to do it, we went through contract negotiations.
That took months.
That took months with us. And
because we were already successful. So like we didn't need a TV show, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, we're not just accepting any contract you send us. Like we don't need to do this. It's nice. So it took months to get for the contract negotiations. Once we finally signed, we went straight to series. Like they sent all these producers and videos and audio guys down, and we just started filming. And one of the reasons we did it is because A&E films documentary style versus some of the other TV shows that are scripted. So we're not scripted. They film documentary style. And they just document what we do, right? And we're like, yeah, we're not going to get in TV and like have to be fake or be people we're not. Like, you know, best people we can play is ourselves. So that's the beautiful thing about our shows is we're just doing what we do on a daily basis and they document it.
So typically we film 5 days a week, 10 hours a day, for about 8 to 9 months.
For a season.
You said 5 days a week.
Yep.
10 hours a day for 9 months.
It's a full-time job when you're making TV. People don't realize that.
Wow.
They're following us.
We're not in filming season right now. Too. We filmed 2 seasons. They're both seasons are on Hulu and also on A&E as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a full-time job for 9 months. And how is it like? You're just doing you're doing your work, right? Like it's not like anything different, or is it a little bit more of a stress, or like how's it?
It is extremely stressful. It's intense.
It's intense because TV has, you think like a rehab project has timelines, like TV has tight timelines.
Yes.
So we could have, we typically have 5 to 8 rehabs when we're filming going on at one time. Like I know managing one rehab is intense, but imagine 5 or 8 at one time. Right, so it's super intense. Like Krystal said, 10, 12, 14-hour days. We don't have to manufacture drama because you got 5 rehabs going on. Shit, excuse my language. Stuff's gonna happen. It's gonna go wrong. Yeah. So it's like it's just putting out fires left and right. But that's what makes it fun and makes it entertaining as well.
Yeah, but it's definitely a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Each year gets easier.
Because we add people to our team.
Yep, and you don't know what you don't know, right? First year was a nightmare. It was the most stressful year of our life was the first year. But you go into it not knowing what you don't know. They was like, oh, you only do 2 to 3 days a week filming. And, we won't need you in Dedric like every day. It'll be like, a few hours, 4 to 5 hours a day. And it turned out 5 days straight.
5 days a week.
5 days a week, 10 hours a day.
Was the reality.
And it was Dedric and I every day. The most we would get out of it would be like Dedric would be in the morning and then I have to come and join him at a property. Like that's about as much a separation as we get.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That sounds like a lot, but it's been worth it, right? You guys have like enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
And what
Yes.
is it? Yeah. What does it come with like having a TV show? Like what happens? Like, you know.
You get recognized everywhere
Mm,
now, so that definitely comes with it. But it also, what I like about it is the stories that it come with. People from everywhere DM us, they message us, and they just tell us what's going on in their life, or they
And how
tell
we
us
inspired
how
them,
we've inspired them. You
which
know,
is amazing.
people have messaged us, and we've sent teams out to rehab their home. We've sent our crew out to handle something that has been a problem in their area. We've had so many people resonate with what we call "Don't Sell Big Mama's House," where it's keeping these generational homes in your family and finding the
mm,
beauty and the value in them again. So many people has contacted us and said, "Oh my God, I was just about to sell
My
my
family
family
home.
home that no one's lived in it since I was a little kid. I'm 50 some years old now, and
Don't
now
sell it. Don't sell Big Mama's
they're
house.
like, now I'm gonna rehab it and keep it for my kids and my grandkids. And so I love just all the different stories, and I mean from prison. We get so
yeah.
many letters just from prison of people who
Right.
say we've inspired them. We've had people get out of a prison. We've had one gentleman get paroled and then join our coaching
And
program.
part of his parole plan was like, hey, I'm going to be getting into wholesaling real estate. That's my plan, and he's been very successful.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, super cool. All right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure interviewing you. And, you know, if you have any parting words, what would you tell the listeners, the audience?
My advice to anyone is always start how you want to finish. And when I tell people to start how you want to finish, that's anything and everything in life. So when we tell people our the story of how we dated and how we started, that was for a
Mm,
reason. I started how I wanted to finish. I started not with blinders on. So we were able to amass quicker than the average couple what we've amassed in such a short amount of time because we started with the end in mind.
mm,
If I tell people to start how you want to finish, go into things with how you want to end. We said when we got together and got in real estate, we want to amass wealth, generational wealth, something that our grandkids can benefit from.
mm,
So from the very beginning, it has always been buy and hold. Every two wholesale deals, we bought a property. Another two wholesale deals, we bought another property. So
mm,
start with the end in mind, but start how you want to finish. Whether it's from a relationship, whether it's from a business standpoint, whether it's from getting into a job. Every job I ever took was very strategic. I strategically took these jobs based off of, hey, what can I learn from this job that can help me when I get into entrepreneurship? Because I was always an entrepreneur. So my advice always to people is to start how you want to finish. And that's anything in life.
Yeah, my advice, Julian, is you can fail your way to you can fail your way to success. So fail your way forward. So I'm a more conservative by nature. Crystal's more jump off the building and grow wings on your way down. I'm like, all right, I need to make sure everything is lined up perfectly. So for those people who are like, I've always wanted to do real estate, but I don't know. What if I lose my shirt, which is my fear? What if I didn't want to go back to being broke, right? I grew up with not a lot of
yeah.
money. I didn't want to go back to that. So again, what I learned from when Crystal and I met is that you're never going to get anywhere if unless you overcome that fear. So the more I came out of that show and started doing things and even failing, the closer I got to success. Right. The only way you really could lose is if you quit. So fail your way forward. Don't give up on your dreams and your goals. And if we can do it, you can do it too.
And always remember failure doesn't mean final.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good way to end it.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, guys, Dedric and Crystal, where can we see you on social media? How can we find you?
Yes, so you can find us at all things Be Polite. So Be Polite Properties on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Be Polite. You can also reach out to us, DM us, Dedric Polite, Crystal Polite, And then anyone who's interested in learning, we have a free training. If you go to politewealthportal.com, we do free trainings once a month where we literally lay out the entire blueprint and strategies that got us to where we are today. So anyone's interested in learning, just feel free to go to Polite Wealth Portal, and we're glad to help.
Okay, amazing. This is a great way to end. All right, well, see you guys on the next episode to track your journey, okay?
Thanks for having us, Julian.
Thanks, Julian.